On AM 1130, 99.9 FM, Prescott, Chino Valley, and Paulden, 95.5 FM, Prescott Valley and Cottonwood, the talk of the Quad Cities, KQNA. It's HammerTime. Waking up with the YCCA. HammerTime is brought to you by Lawhorn Plumbing, Verde Valley Alarm Services, Earthworks Landscape and Supply, Prescott Home Safety, Greenlee Designer Surfaces, Get Right Mitigation, Franklin Plumbing, The Blind Brothers, Caltex, Vicente Landscaping, Barrett Propane, and Badger Roofing. And now from the studios of KQNA, it's HammerTime, waking up with the YCCA. Here's the Executive Director of the Yavapai County Contractors Association, Sandy Griffiths.
Hey, everybody. Happy February. Mike.
Yes.
Guess what? It's hard to tell.
I know. It's deja vu.
It is deja vu. We're still in February. The groundhog saw his shadow.
Well, sounds like you better get your wraps up because we may have winter after all.
Yeah, 6 weeks of winter, but we haven't had winter yet, listeners. You know, the week was beautiful. The sky was blue. I didn't have to turn my seat warmer on or my steering wheel warmer or the heater in the car.
So what are you going to do in May when our snow arrives?
I'm quite sure. I'll put the flip-flops away, I guess. Go. So anyway, listeners, thank you for tuning in to HammerTime, brought to you by YCCA. That is Yavapai County Contractors Association. And boy, do we have a show this morning.
We do.
Our show last weekend was so great with Ricky and the guys from Advantage Home Performance.
Yep. How
to save energy. Listeners, every one of you should sign up and get the $99 home audit.
Yep,
energy audit. Absolutely. That goes for you, too.
Yep, you got it.
But anyway, they're lovely guys. We sure had a great show, learned a lot about how to save energy. And you can go to the YCCA website and listen to your heart's content.
Absolutely.
So our show this morning, we're going to talk self-defense. We're going to talk skill development. We're going to find out what FMA is, how it works, and probably most importantly, maybe we should all have some of those skills in our life.
I would agree.
So take us to break, and when we come back, listeners, you are going to meet the famous, the super cool Scott Shephard.
So don't go away. You're listening to HammerTime, brought to you by Yavapai County Contractors Association, and we're airing on Talk of the Quad Cities, KQNA 1130 AM, 99.9 FM, and 95.5 FM. So as Sandy said, we've got a great show lined up with Scott this morning. So fill up that cup of coffee or grab that OJ, get settled down in that comfy chair. Don't turn that dial because we'll be right back.
You're listening to HammerTime, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Everybody, good morning, and again, welcome to HammerTime, brought to you by Yavapai County Contractors Association. So our guest with us this morning is Mr. Scott Shephard. He has founded FMA. It's called Fundamental Martial Arts. Scott, we're so excited to have you with Mike and me this morning.
Thank you for the invitation.
We're going to, I didn't have any idea, and I probably still don't, Mike, what FMA is, how it works, what it does, and how do you know if somebody is FMA trained?
I think we've got just the guy who can answer those questions.
We do. So, Scott, first, let's just start by sharing with our listening audience, and it is rather large, my friend.
Wonderful.
Who you are and how you got into the world of FMA, and what is it?
Okay. So I've been training in martial arts 39 years, so trained in 6 martial arts. I founded FMA 19 years ago now.
But why? What made you do that instead of becoming a licensed contractor?
I hit my thumb way too many times with my dad, hammering stuff. Yeah.
Got it.
So, I was an instructor in 3 martial arts, inducted to Hall of Fame in 2004, all this kind of thing. So I had a lot of experience with different types of martial arts. And my whole focus was the martial side of martial arts, which is, warfare, basically. And urban warfare needed more of what FMA is, in my opinion. So karate and such is great, and all martial arts have value, but the truth is there was a big gap, and there needs to be a type of art out there that regular people can go to, that you can go to and train, that's designed for you, that can meet your schedule, all these things, and designed for street practical application only. We don't do bowing, bare feet, special outfits, any of that kind of stuff. It's absolutely focused for the street application. So, traditional martial arts has bare feet and special outfits and all that, and we bow and all those things. And I did all that, and I was an instructor in one of those as well. And sport, though, there's sport arts too, and they tend to, have one opponent at a time, the same weight class, same sex, rules, right? And so street application discards all of that. We have no rules. So it's the same as, the guys that might be listening to this, well, I carry a gun. Well, wonderful. So glad you do. I do too. I carry a knife and a gun in my hands. So if it just depends on what range I'm on to what weapon I use.
So street application is your teaching of fundamental martial arts?
Yeah. So fundamental, the reason we called it fundamental is because this is the basic reason for martial arts, in my opinion, is what FMA is about. Without fundamentals, you cannot master anything, and with fundamentals, you can master anything.
So
right?
What's a fundamental
of martial arts?
Of martial arts. Thank you.
Well, it's just how we go about the technique. So,
okay.
So we might have similar techniques to other arts, but for one, we're not obscenely optimistic with anything we do, which you will find in some schools. And I feel like that's irresponsible. So we make sure that it's something that can actually be applied in the real world. And we factor in that the bad guy is fighting back as hard as he can too. And if you don't factor that in, you are not really training. So we take whatever that drill is, that skill is that we want to learn, and we hone it down to where the fundamentals are sharp and repeatable, just like you would go into the gun range.
So mostly then with your hands and arms?
Yep.
Or, okay.
Yep. Now, we use our feet too, but in my opinion, I don't punch you in the ankle, so I'm not going to kick you in the head. And also, the average person is not that flexible, and also it's very time consuming. So we have kicks, but I don't emphasize kicks.
So would you be able to pick Mike up while we're in the studio now and throw him over your shoulders? And
if absolutely necessary.
I got here before you did, and I opened my wallet before you did.
Okay, so are you able to teach? Do you teach group classes and individuals?
Yep. So I teach about 26 classes a week, and
oh my gosh!
Yeah, and so we have women's group classes that we do. That's the same. It's once a week. All our classes are based on once a week because, again, we're aiming at the regular people that are busy. And so if you're a business owner or any of those things, or a mom, single mom, or any of that stuff, you're busy. So instead of asking you to come 3 times a week, we aim for 1, and then that's something that's doable. So we have multiple women's group classes each week, and you can flex from week to week as you need to. And then we have a men's class on Saturday mornings. And this is all adult, by the way. We don't teach kids. We don't need kids classes because the material is extreme.
How long is the class?
It's 1 hour.
1 hour.
Mm-hmm. And then I can also put together a workshop for a group or a team building, something like that, if you'd like. But a workshop is good. It gives you pointers, but the weekly classes is really where it's at. And then most of my training is private one-on-one classes or semi-private.
Mike.
Yes.
Have you ever wanted to learn FMA?
I've never really thought about it, quite frankly.
But you are now.
I am now.
Nice.
So, Scott, do we live, I guess every area where somebody lives and all of your surroundings, we should all be conscious of what's around us and have some sort of skill to protect ourselves.
Absolutely.
And that skill, I would say, is not carrying a can of mace in your purse or pocketbook. That's so not going to do any good.
Well, my hesitation is I don't want you relying on that. I mean, if that's what you have and that's all you have time to train with or something like that, then great.
I don't have that. I have something that hurts more than that.
Well, super. I'm so glad to hear that. We're not bullies, but we're not going to put up with bullies either. So if someone wants to hurt you, we need to create the opportunity to escape, right? They're not going to let you go. So if they're, holding you back and keeping you somewhere, we need to create the opportunity to escape. But, we can expand on that a bit. But if you want to talk about prevention, that's truly the best self-defense. But there's a lot of stats out there that the prevention broke down, so.
Okay. So I love the TV show, The Equalizer. Mm-hmm. I think she is so cool. Is that fundamental martial arts? It's
Hollywood, but
scripted production.
It's a little scripted, So they're not doing all that in one take,
Okay.
So we have to end up doing it in one take.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a big difference. So, again, it's awesome to see. And some of that is very good. Some movies, some of their skills are very, very good and practical and possible and all that. But, of course, it's entertainment. So as soon as you stick in entertainment, you're taking away some of the reality, right?
So the first thing is obviously to be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah. So aware of your surroundings. Everything your mom told you, great stuff. Do all of that. But, FMA is designed in case any of that breaks down, right? We like to say, FMA is in case you don't have your gun in your hand. So we're we may have to, our gun's in the glove box, but I'm in the store. So, I got to do something now on the way to the, in the parking lot. So, but absolutely, prevention is definitely the best self-defense. There's a lot of stuff in prevention that we should talk about. One is stretching your senses. So if you're looking around, obviously, we're all adults. We made it this far. That's good. But, stretch your senses, right? So instead of looking for traps and snares and bad guys, kind of start looking at sunsets and blooming flowers and newborn babies and old people holding hands and beautiful things, and practice that, and you'll begin to see more of that. And when you look and see more of that, you'll stretch your vision and you'll begin to see more of the possible threats out there. And then for women, you have that spidey sense, that extra this doesn't feel right thing that a lot of times men don't have. Listen to that stuff. You're walking out of the store, going to the parking lot, and, you doesn't feel right going to your car. Go back in there and get that little kid to walk out with your little bag and take it to your car with you. Just nothing, it's just barriers, basically. Anything, extra person, the shopping cart between you and the weirdo, barriers all the time.
So how do you stretch your senses? I mean, just like you said, my head is on a swivel a lot, but I'm not looking for the flowers and the honeybees.
Yeah, you should try it. I'm asking for you to do some homework, okay? Stretch out a little bit. Make sure you see today's sunset. I hate it when I skip a couple of days and I look up and I see the beautiful clouds and I go, darn it, I missed it.
Now, I like
right?
I'm good at the clouds and the blue skies.
Okay, good.
Yes.
That's a good start.
Yes.
Now,
okay.
There's a lot between here and those skies, right? So now start just bringing that down on the horizon a little bit, looking around. You'll see, there's a lot of great people in this town, right? And they're all a lot of smiles on their faces, but there's a lot of weirdos too, and they don't just necessarily live here, right? They travel here. They might be, coming through. We live on a border state. We have things that attract outsiders to this town, right? So it's not your neighbor that we're worried about. It's those other kind of people that might want to start trouble. But just be aware. I mean, do everything that you're doing for sure. But if you sense something that isn't right, it probably is not.
So, Mike, where are you in this? Do you look around and see those senses? Do you look for the laughing babies and the
I'm probably
sunrises?
Not as observant as what Scott's talking about, but I do tend to try to be aware of my surroundings, absolutely. One of the things that is great about what he presents is that someone attacking you can't take that away from you. If you have a knife, if you have a gun, a baseball bat, what have you, there's always that chance that can be taken away from you and used on you. And that's one of the things that this program offers that no one can take away from you.
Excellent point.
Wow. Very good.
And with that, we're going to go to a break.
Okay, take us off, my FMA wannabe.
We're having a great conversation here, so please make sure you come back and listen to our next segment. And in the meantime, please enjoy the messages from our valuable sponsors. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Hey everybody, good morning, and thanks for tuning in to Hammer Time. You know, if you just tuned in, you were late getting up, you can always hear a replay of our show on Sunday morning, 7 a.m., same great station, same great time, and same super cool jokes. Okay, Scott and Mike, 5 aunts rented an apartment with another 5 aunts.
Okay.
Now what are they?
I took a peek.
Oh, you cheated. Okay, I'm going to have to FMA you. Oh, yeah. They're called tenants. Okay.
That's good.
You took a peek. How'd you take a peek so fast?
To see I'm fast, right?
Man, you are fast. You were paying attention. You had your other sense going on.
Right.
You had your spidey sense going on there, my friend. So, I guess that FMA is building practical responses to serious threats, right?
That's right. You got it. You know, so one of my great teachers used to say, resistance separates fantasy from reality. So we have to train as if the bad guy is fighting with his whole heart, right? Obviously, he's a bad guy to start off with, so he ain't right in the head. I don't have any of those triggers to want to hurt somebody, but these people do. And so they're already twisted in some fashion, and they're likely bigger and lazier. That's why bigger people pick on littler people, right? So we have to train for bigger people, serious threats, and if we're not training for that, then basically we're not training, frankly.
So the bad guy wants to hurt us, but your trigger is what? Not to hurt the bad guy, to make him run away from you?
Well, let's say you were talking to a gun guy right now, which of course I am, but like a gun pro, and he would tell you, 2 center mass, right?
Yes.
So because you're not going to shoot unless it's legally and morally justified. Now, if it is, then 2 center mass. And you keep it simple, right? So that's why you don't shoot the gun out of someone's hand and baloney like that, this TV stuff. So we're the same way. So we're going to keep it simple. And we have an acronym called BEAT IT, which is brain, eyes, and throat. The beat, and it is intentional targeting. So we want to attack things that are function items for the person, like their brain, their eyes, and their throat. So if you can take that pen and put it in my eye, you're on the right track to getting out of here. If you can punch me in the throat and I can't breathe, then I'm not going to chase you a quarter mile. So we have to shut down his ability to restrain us, and that means we have to be as violent as him.
To give you enough time to get away.
That's right. You're just trying to create the opportunity to escape. That's your goal.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's not a matter of trying to bring the perpetrator to justice,
right,
and keep them hogtied until the police get
Absolutely.
there. You want to get away from them.
Yeah, it's unrealistic to think that. So we're training for, a true, genuine threat. So if he's trying to kill you, which people do on a daily basis, right? He's trying to do that, then we need to do what a gunman would do, a professional gun guy would do, and that's, basically put 2 center mass, but with our bare hands. So we, again, we'd like to say FMA is in case the gun is not in your hand. Now, if I had 20 yards, I see 3 guys coming and they're raging, then I'd pull my gun. But this is if he's jumped me and I can't quite reach it.
What about, are you seeing more and more women joining the classes, women classes, group classes nowadays?
We have mostly have women. So we have 4 women's group classes each week. Classes are once a week, and you can flex from week to week, whichever class fits your schedule best. And we have a weeknight, a weekday. We have 2 weekend classes. So try to make it convenient for you. And since it's only once a week, even busy people can pull it off. And that's by design to try to help people, get there. And then it's an hour a week, which isn't a big investment either, but people love it. And they love it because it's effective, and they feel growth.
So the very first class, for your very first hour, you show up, you have your workout clothes on, you have your tennis shoes on. What do they learn in the first hour?
It's interesting. So when I first started FMA 19 years ago, a lot of hours of classes since then, right? So I've learned a lot. But I did start off, with, okay, here, start with this, move from here. But I found over the years that to integrate beginners with established classes is actually best. So because even the established classes have to relearn things over and over and over again to get more depth, right? So the established students are integrated with new students. So we all work together as a team to grow. So, and they're very welcoming with the new students, the experienced students. And then in no time, in a few months, they're one of the experienced students and they're helping the newbies,
Wow.
So, and we're all working on, people jump in the pool swimming basically. So whatever we're working on, that's what they jump in learning. But within each technique, that whatever we're working on at the time still has the same fundamental principles, along the way with self-defense and related things. And again, I'd like to say my opinion of martial arts is self-defense. So this is, I guess, self-defense. But in my opinion, martial arts should be self-defense, the martial aspect of martial arts.
So how do you teach someone the fundamental process in your class without them actually hurting somebody?
Well, I hear you. That makes a lot of sense, but we wouldn't get a lot of volunteers doing that, would we? That's one thing. And then the other thing, it's kind of like if you go to the gun range and you're shooting paper targets. I'm pretty sure I can still put 2 in the chest, even though I'm shooting paper targets.
Okay.
Now, the difference is I'm under extreme stress. It's an actual human being that we're shooting at now. That obviously provoked me to pull out my gun, which is extreme situation. So that you have to factor all those things in too. And we talk about those things as we train as well, how to manage that.
Now, perpetrators, well, let's call them
bad
guys, they don't just go after women, they'll go after guys too. But percentage-wise, is there a statistic, 80%?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I used to look into a lot of stats deeply, and then I just kind of came to the conclusion that anything is possible.
Sure.
I say to my students, if a person, an alien unzips himself, and 2 more aliens pop out, we need to go, yep, that's what it is. So I don't want you to get kind of like pigeonholed into it could be a guy or it could be a gal or it could be a bigger guy or any of these things. It could be anything. I used to train a guy who was 6'10" for 3 years. Why did he come to me? Well, because he knew that he was going to be attacked by more than one person or someone with a weapon. So that's why he trained with me. So, it could be anything.
Sure. Okay.
We have to take another break, you two, and I really don't want to. However, we could get in serious trouble. When we come back, I want to talk to you, Scott. Is it really fun? And how does FMA teach someone to grow? I really want to get into the mind part of this. Are you up for that?
Let's do it.
Perfect. We'll be right back, listeners. Mr. Scott Shephard, owner of Fundamental Martial Arts. Mr. Mike Enders, my wingman and FMA to be, and me. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Listeners, thanks for hanging with us this morning on Hammer Time, brought to you by Yavapai County Contractors Association. So, Scott, before we went on break, I'd like to know about what FMA, Fundamental Martial Arts, can you have fun doing it, and how does the process and the skills teach someone to grow?
I would love to answer that. The most rewarding part for me when I work with someone for a while is, and I'm just hugely grateful for this, is they will pause and just stop the class and look at me and say, thank you. I'm not just learning these skills, but I'm learning so much. This is helping my business. It's helping my focus. It's helping my family. I feel more confident. I mean, I'm not just in this, tube walking around anymore. So they just basically the thing is it's good energy, okay? If a lot of people don't do this, they put their head in the sand because they feel it's bad energy. They don't want to manifest this stuff and bring it to themselves by admitting that this is true. But once you do that and you face it and you work through it, it actually becomes good energy, and you're not hiding from that bad black cloud anymore. You can handle that black cloud now, and it's a whole different vibe for a person. So they grow in so many ways just based on that revelation.
Interesting.
And it's super fun to have, these skills, right?
Yes.
And just to be good at anything. I mean, if it was violin or guitar,
right,
I'd be just as excited about it. There's a challenge to it. And once you can achieve something that you tried hard on, there's a lot of self-reward, And I think a lot of my students are feeling that, which is wonderful.
I would venture to say, and this is just a guess on my part, but if someone's attacked and they exhibit the ability to defend themselves, that I would think would tend to make that attacker think twice about continuing the process.
Yeah, that's how I got out of a sticky wicket one time in Phoenix. I had a guy that was lots bigger than me, and a long story how we got into this fix, but anywho, he was very large. He had to have been a professional, not a professional, but probably a college level lineman or so. Mm-hmm. And I'm only 5'10", so a 200-pound guy, not that big. And so we were engaged with each other physically. And so he steps back and he says, I'll weigh you 100 pounds. And I said, well, that just means legally I can do anything I want to you. And he paused and kind of cocked his head like a puppy dog and took about 3 steps back, kind of realized that I meant that. And that was it. He walked off. And that was it. My goal is to separate from him. So we separated, right?
With just words.
So it worked. So in other words, he got the vibe that don't mess with that.
Well, it's kind of like they talk about people that are from houses that get broken into, that a sign that says you have so-and-so.
I love that.
That you're monitored by so-and-so. It may not protect you, but if they have a choice between homes that appear to be secured and homes that aren't secured, why waste your time?
I love that. Anything that's a barrier. Dogs are fabulous. The signs are fabulous, especially if you can back up those signs. A lot of people just stick signs in their yards, but, if they have, the backup for that as well. Anything that can be a barrier is a good thing. I had a student one time that she said that she puts, she's a single lady, and she trained about 6 years, and she put a pair of size 12 work boots on her back porch. So if someone sneaks around the back door, they're going to see these giant boots.
Awesome.
I thought that was fabulous.
That's great. That is so good. So let's talk about, you brought some statistics with you, Scott, that are very eye-opening, and I would like for you to share some of those with our listeners.
Okay, so, this is not pleasant, but true. So, I have a 2020 stat here that in Arizona, 28,000 plus violent crimes in Arizona, but only 10,000 plus were arrested. You see, so that's about half, right? Get arrested, and then and I'd like you to consider the types of bad guys we have. So, in this world, we have traffickers, rapists, murderers, domestic violence guys, muggers, drug gang guys. So on and on and on. We could count to 10 pretty easy, right, on the types of bad guys. And in Yavapai County, we have a 645-1 ratio between good guys and sexual offenders that are registered, 645-1. So let's say you have a courthouse event of 5,000 people. That means there's 8 registered sex offenders. That's registered, by the way. And what percent of registered do you think there are? But let's say 8. And then you have 10 types of bad guys. So that's 10 times 8. So at any of these courthouse events, there's 80 basically bad guys running around, right? So we could look at it that way, right? At any given time. And then annually, there's 202,000 guilty criminals that are released from prisons and jails in Arizona annually, 202,000. So that's more of the population than Quad Cities that are being released. And studies show that 2/3 of those people will likely reoffend and go back. So this is a real thing. And then I'd like to talk a little bit about that. You were asking about women and men. To give you a sense of what even women are capable of, there's a terrible story, but I feel like I need to share it. There was a lady who was traveling with her 2 daughters. One was about 9 years old, one was about 4 years old. And they went to like a Maverick type of thing. and traveling, and she was getting gas, and the kids went in to use the restroom real quick. And so she went in to pay for the gas. The older girl comes out, and she says, "Where's the little girl?" And she says, "I thought she was with you." And she says, "Well, I thought she was with you." So the mom went into the bathroom to find the little girl. And within just that few minutes of time, the little girl's head was already shaven, and there was a lady there that was putting on boy clothes on this person in a matter of moments. And this was a lady that was doing this to this kid.
Wow.
So that's what people are capable of out there. And that's why we need to get armed up.
In seconds, matter of minutes. I kind of like that, armed up. And it doesn't necessarily mean armed up with knives and guns,
right,
but armed up with your protective defense skills.
That's it. It's just a matter of what range you're in, you know. So I'm cool with guns, and I think, you know, as long as we're using them legally and morally, that's great. But it just, I don't have it with me right now, you know. So there's places and times where I don't have my gun. So I think if you're serious about protecting yourself and your family, you need to really look at a program like this.
So for someone to become not well-versed, medium-versed in protecting themselves, how long do you think their skills training should be? 2 months, 6 months,
That's a great question. You know, it's interesting because we only train once a week, right?
Right.
But I cram you in that hour, right? So it takes a week to digest that. But over time, people realize the first month is kind of the hardest because it's a foreign language. It's, you know, different. It's intense. It's like, wow, you know, it's like, I don't know if I can pull this off. But if you can get through that first month, all of a sudden there's traction and momentum, and 6 months go by and a year goes by, and all of a sudden you're there 3 years. And I'd say my average person that's active right now has been with me more than 4 or 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so, and why is that? It's not because that's necessary, but just the more you do, the better you are. So anyone, again, using the gun analogy, they go to the range on a monthly, quarterly basis and shoot, you know, 1,000 rounds, right? Mm-hmm. Because you got to keep yourself sharp. So the other thing about true martial arts training is there's all kinds of possibilities. There's multiple attackers. What if he has a knife? What if he has a gun? You know, what if he grabs you? What if he grabs you this way, that way? What if he, you know, chokes you? What if you're in a headlock? There's all these type of possibilities. So when you think about an hour a week and all those possibilities, a couple of years can go by pretty fast.
Okay, so for our listeners, give a visual of maybe the first month of training. What do you teach? And let's talk about women. What's something that you would have them do?
Well, you know, they do everything that I would do because they have to deal with the same bad guys I do.
Right. Okay.
So I don't care for the type of schools that women, you can only punch like this.
Right. Okay.
So we have high expectations because you have the same bad guys I have.
Do you have fake punching persons?
Of course. You know, we have all those fun things. So, but yeah, you get to punch things and poke things and do all that. And but I teach you how to use a knife. I teach you how to use a stick. So we do those type of weapons because a baton is a practical weapon to carry, and a knife is a practical weapon to carry. I mean, plus, if you know, anytime you go to the next store you go to, look at how many people have a knife in their pocket. A lot.
Gosh, everybody.
Right. So we need to get tuned up on that, which that's a big focus of one of the areas we teach. But yeah, I don't. Women, absolutely. It's not girl push-ups, guy push-ups stuff over there. And not that we do push-ups, but my private students I make do push-ups. But you know, if you're in a group class, I don't make you do push-ups or any of that jazz. But we go right to the material. But yeah, I expect you to do exactly the way I would do it.
Wonderful. So what about the component of fear? Can you let fear take over? But I think we have to take a break, don't we, engineer? Yes. Then we'll talk about fear because I'm afraid not to take a break. We'll be right back.
Good segue.
Thank you.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Scott Shephard, owner of Fundamental Martial Arts. This has been an amazing show this morning. Thank you for being with Mike and me and sharing the importance of FMA and how it can protect us.
And as Scott said, he approaches in instructing people how to just react to somebody who's physically attacking you with their hands or with a knife or with a gun or with a bat. My question is, statistically, of people who are attackers, generally, do they use weapons or? And I realize that it's varied, but statistically, is it more often than not they're just using their hands?
Yeah, again, the DPS.com website is excellent about. There's every year they do a report on stats for who's used weapons in violent crime. That's a really neat piece of research that people should look at. But weapons in general are not as prevalent as hand-to-hand, but they are there, right? Yeah. They are there. So we definitely need to kind of be ready for that.
Let's talk about fear. Can we freeze in the moment? How do you get past this fear factor?
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Your heart's just beating so fast and your knees are knocking.
Yeah, over the years, I've had hundreds of women that have told me their stories. I'd say at any given time, 50% of our students have had an assault, right? So that's how bad the stats are. So even locally, right? So, but over the years, hundreds of women have told me their stories, and the common thread was they couldn't believe it was real. They felt like they were in a dream state. Now they're survivors, and that's great, okay? And if you are listening to this and you're a survivor, that's fantastic. But they train with me, and they're like, never again, okay? So the thing is, you have to accept your situation. That's number one. You have to accept that this is taking place. And then you need to accept the way fear works in the body. So the blood leaves your extremities and pulls into your torso. And that way, like if you're cut on your arm or something, when you're under that stress of fear, you don't bleed out, things like that. So you had the hands shaky kind of thing. That is fear not being applied. So if we can accept that we feel sick in our stomach from all that blood, and we feel lightheaded from the blood change in our body, and this just feels weird, and we accept our situation both, then what we want to do is channel that fear, because we're never stronger or faster than that gift of fear. It's a gift, literally, right? So we were designed to have that burst. So if we can channel that fear into action, then we have the best chance to separate from that threat.
Makes sense.
Gosh, but that's a learning process.
That's part of it, and that's part of the journey too, of just doing all the classes and working with all the other students and stuff, and seeing their journeys and your common grounds with everybody else, and that's why it's a neat team kind of a building thing, because you become part of the culture of just being more ready and being more aware and being smart.
Now I know that we have several well-known people in our community that have taken your class.
Yeah.
Scott, in fact, they're still probably taking your classes, but lots of our friends have joined Scott in his FMA teachings.
So they love it, and the average, this is, again, designed for the average person. These are average people, business owners, and, people So, but they love it because, the average person out there right now, if someone went boo for real, they're going to, maybe fight back, and that's great. And a lot of guys will say, I'll die for my family, and that's great, but how about live for your family so you can fight another time? But they tend to just wail and act like a big hand grenade going off, right? And a hand grenade is dangerous, but it can just nick you here and there. I would rather you take that energy and kind of channel it down and train and get more of a rifle mindset than a hand grenade mindset, right? And just aim all that rage and terror and everything else down the rifle barrel at whatever target you're trying to take care of.
So
concentrate.
Would an FMA person with these skills, would you take them and go upon another happening to save someone or scare off the attacker? Or do you primarily use these skills for your own safety?
Well, I wouldn't ask my students to, police the world out there.
Okay, police the world.
But frankly, I would not be able to walk away from something like that personally, and I would absolutely jump in there and take care of that, which I sort of have a couple times. But don't recommend it, because my goal for my student is to separate from the threat, right? So I don't want them walking into the threat. But me personally, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I didn't do something about it.
So are you always on aware 24/7 when you're out and about and you're looking at the blue clouds and, and the white fluffy clouds and the flowers?
Well, I want this to be a healthy thing for you, right? So if you're paranoid, that's not the direction I want you to go, right? So again, we're just we're trained. So we spend that hour a week training our brains out, and then it's in us, right? And as time goes on, you get better and deeper and better and deeper at it. And it just becomes more a part of who you are. It's not so much like now it's black and white and I'm a crazy person for fighting now. It's just that you can fight back.
Wonderful.
But one of the reasons for doing it and continuing to do it, and I'm sure that's why his students continue to be there month after month after year, is that it needs to become not a thought process. You need to literally be able to react without even thinking.
Perfect. That's exactly right. It needs to be a reflex.
So, Scott, should someone like to sign up for your class or get more information on pricing and how it works, how do they reach you?
Yep, we have PrescottDefenseSkills.com, and my number is 928-925-2642. And either one of those is great ways to get to me. And we have the group classes each week. I do have one private that opened up, which hasn't been open for like 2 or 3 years. So that happens very rarely. I have one private. So if someone's serious out there, that's Wednesday mornings at 11:30. And then you can build your own workshop. So if there's a business owner out there or something that wants to get it like a team builder, we can make that happen for you.
And your classes are held where?
We are in downtown Prescott. Unless you want me to do a workshop, say, at your location, we can make that happen. But as far as the weekly classes, it's downtown Prescott, just off the courthouse square, about a block up.
Perfect. Local, centralized location, easy to get to. And you've been doing this for, again, how many years?
FMA is 19th year this year.
Good gravy.
Yeah.
Super.
So how many more years do you see this in your future?
I'm running out of gas.
You are?
No, not yet. Not yet. I got a couple years left.
How do you know? How are you going to know when it's time to not share and educate and train?
Well, the truth is there are some things that we're going to do to expand, but I want to keep FMA alive forever. So I'll be teaching for decades.
Okay, perfect. All right, awesome. Listeners, we have to take a break, and when we come back, the three of us, we will wrap up our self-defense skills and end our show. Don't move. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Scott, this was amazing, wasn't it, Mike?
It was.
Thank you so much for agreeing to join us, and I'm so happy I ran into you in the hallway of your training facility.
And thank you for not letting her talk you into throwing me on the floor.
So let's end our show and turn it over to Scott for some last pieces of important information, my friend.
Well, just, we want to run away if possible, right? Prevent if you can, and then if you can't, run away would be great. But all this stuff, all this talk is if you can't run away, and we need to build a chance to run away. So, of course, run away once you can. But if someone's extremely aggressive upon you, which is what we're talking about, which happens all the time, which is a lot of these stats, that's what violent crime is, then we have to create that opportunity. And so we have to be aggressive. We have to be meaner than he is during that moment, and we have to damage him. It's not kicking a guy in the groin and causing pain or punching on the chest and hoping he does something about that.
You said it was brain, eyes, and throat.
Brain, eyes, and throat, or our babies. Okay, now if none of those are available, then we'll go liver, solar plexus, groin, kneecaps, whatever. But those are our secondary targets. Primary targets, brain, eyes, and throat for sure. And those are things that will help us shut down the function of the person to help him not be able to restrain us any further, so that we can escape.
Away.
And then run away, absolutely.
Scott, you're amazing. You're brilliant. You are the Wikipedia of martial arts, and I'm so proud that you joined Mike and me on Hammer Time.
Thank you so much.
Amazing, my friend. Listeners, have a great week. We love you. We adore you. YCCA is here for you. 778-0040 and 6 more weeks of winter. Talk to you next weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hammer Time. Thank you for tuning in to Hammer Time. Waking Up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Heard each and every Saturday morning at 7, with an encore presentation Sunday mornings at 7 on AM 1130 by 99.9 FM in Prescott, 95.5 FM, Prescott Valley and Cottonwood, and online at kqna.com. A library of past Hammer Time shows can be listened to on the Yavapai County Contractors website at ycca.org. Break it down!